Star Wars at this time is pretty divisive, and with The Rise of Skywalker coming out in a few days, it's sad but not surprising to see so much negativity. Half the fanbase loves the Disney sequel trilogy, while the other half is pretty much despised of everything to do with new Star Wars, and I'm in that half. Now, in my opinion, not everything Disney has done with Star Wars has been horrible. For example, so far The Mandalorian is a fantastic show that has brought Star Wars back to its roots. And there are some elements to The Force Awakens that make it a solid movie. I personally like The Force Awakens a lot. But in all this smoke lies a true masterpiece of a Star Wars film that no one ever gives proper recognition to. That film is Rogue One. I'm going to break down why I feel like this film is so underrated, and I'm going to break it down into 3 segments and discuss basically why Rogue One has become this kind of dark horse candidate for being, in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars films that no one ever talks about. Hopefully by the end of this video I'll be able to change your guys' opinion on Star Wars right now, Rogue One as a film, and maybe even get you to reinvigorate as a fan into what Star Wars can be if Disney continues to take the right steps with the fandom and with their new property that they'll be producing, like The Mandalorian. When I heard that there was going to be a Star Wars movie taking place before A New Hope, focusing on the rebels who stole the Death Star plans in a suicide mission to give hope to the rest of the galaxy that the Empire can be defeated, and it placed in motion one of the greatest trilogies ever to be made, and Donnie Yen would be playing a blind, force-wielding warrior, and that Darth Vader would be in it, it was safe to say that they already had my ticket, and I was very excited for this film. Now, I see a lot of people complaining that the Rogue One has a really underdeveloped story. Now, if you're not already familiar, Rogue One actually went through some reshoots, and a lot of people don't realize this, but the copy that we got of Rogue One is not actually what the original copy of the movie was going to be, so there are points where I feel that maybe people think that the story was rushed, but it kind of blends into Disney having a little bit too much control over it. But that video is not talking about Disney, this is talking about why this movie is good. Now, there are, like I said, at times the pacing can seem rushed, and that does kind of flaw the movie, but at the same time, this movie does something that Solo failed to do. It made me want to see it. I can't name a single person who wanted a backstory on Han Solo, and especially a movie, and in a way it didn't feel like Star Wars. While Rogue One, on the other hand, is a Star Wars film in every single way. The sound design, the special effects, the practical effects, and even the space and land battles are what Star Wars is at its heart. From our intro with Jyn to the final scene with her, we see her character grow into what a true hero is. Unlike with Rey, we know that she has already fought with Saw Gerrera and rebels in the past, and we know that she has skills, and we don't question her skills. We don't question how good she is in combat because we're told from the start of the film that she has been used to fighting. Details like this are scattered throughout the film. One of the most common complaints about this film is said that there's a lack of character development, and I don't understand where people can be coming from with this, because we are told the character's backstory just enough to understand what they are doing with the plot. Could more time have been spent with the characters as a group? Yes, at certain points of the film, I strongly could make the argument that it would be a even better film if there were more character development as a group. But at the same time, you don't need super strong characters in a film like this because we already know the outcome. We know what happens to these rebels because we never hear of these rebels and we never see these rebels. So it's pretty obvious, at least it was for me as a Star Wars fan, that there was a good chance that almost all of our heroes would die in this, and it was a suicide mission to get these plans. And it kind of painted itself that way about halfway through the film, that it was a suicide mission. And it was a mission to spark hope into the rebellion, into the rest of the galaxy, that the Empire could be defeated. That's what this film was about. This film was about showing that the Empire could be defeated, and that is why it works for me, because I know what the movie is trying to be. It's not trying to be this 3-part trilogy telling the story of a farm boy turned into a Jedi Master who slays evil and restores balance to the universe. It's a story about people who are just trying to make a difference in the universe and make it a better place. And I don't need massive character development to show me and paint me that picture, because I've seen it before. I've seen it in the prequels. I've seen it in the original trilogy, and I've seen it in the new trilogy, the sequel trilogy. And in this movie, I felt that all the character information that we got was plenty enough to continue me being interested into the story. Now, yes, that doesn't mean I don't like a good character development. I love character development. I think that a lot of shows nowadays truly suffer because of lack of character development. You could look at a lot of movies and film nowadays that could be great films and great shows, but they're not at that point of like a Breaking Bad or like the Goodfellas or something like that has that like cultural impact where the character development is so important, and I feel like this movie didn't need that to be a good Star Wars film. So I feel like the criticism that it gets for being lack of character development, it's not worthy of it, because there is enough character development for the story, because none of our people are a Jedi. There is no growth to be had with them. Donnie Yen is not a Jedi. People complain that they should have just made Donnie Yen's character, who I can't remember for the life of me the name. I want to say it's like Churin or something like that. But anyways, that doesn't mean he wasn't a memorable character. The fact that I can't remember his name, it's because it was a difficult name to pronounce, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But you see, the people use that as an argument because they say, oh, we can't remember characters' names. Donnie Yen was a wasted character. I felt the exact opposite. I felt that Donnie Yen stole every scene he was in. I love Jyn Erso as a character. I think Cassian Andor is a great character, and I love K2SO. There's great characters in this film, and I don't understand where people say there's a lack of character development. There's a lack of group development, in that sense. I agree with that, but character development, not that much. We know Cassian is a spy and a saboteur for the rebellion. We know that Jyn used to fight guerrilla warfare with Saw Gerrera as a rebel. Her parents died, and her father is working for the Empire, and she despises the Empire and all of this. We know that. We know that Donnie Yen's character and his friend are temple guardians on Jeddah, and they're guardians of the Force and all of this stuff, and we know this because we're told it. And now why are they helping Jyn, and why are they helping Cassian? Because their temple was destroyed, and they stand for the Republic and the Jedi and the good in the world. What's so hard to understand about that? I don't understand where people come at this film and attack it for lack of character development. Everyone has a good motive to join the rebellion if they're not already part of it. And it's frustrating because it's not worthy of criticism, in my opinion. It's not worthy of criticism to the point where people rank it like right after like the Clone Wars. I've seen people rank, not the Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones. I've seen this movie ranked from all the Star Wars films being the Phantom Menace the worst, then the Attack of the Clones, and then Rogue One. And I don't see it. I don't. I really don't. And it makes me upset when people use such stupid little points like this of character development in loose bracket quotations there, that like it's something bad, because there is character development. It's just not character development that you're used to in a Star Wars film. And is that a bad thing? Absolutely not, because it still feels like a Star Wars film. And I feel like that's where people get lost in it too, is that it's a Star Wars film that isn't a Star Wars film. Because just because it has nothing to do with the Jedi doesn't mean that it's not a Star Wars film. The Jedi are not just what Star Wars means. Star Wars is another universe, another galaxy far, far away that we can go to when we're in a time of, curiosity, or when we're in a time of need, of entertainment, and of pure wonder just to see a place imaginative. Star Wars is basically like an imagination. That's what Star Wars really is, because it was created by George Lucas's imagination. So just because you're not used to seeing character development in a movie this way doesn't mean it's a bad film, and you shouldn't be criticizing it for it. Ever since that South Park episode introduced Memba Berries, my views on nostalgia in film have changed a lot, and especially in Star Wars films. Now, as much as I love The Force Awakens, it did tend to rely on nostalgia a little too much, and the main reason for that is just quite simple. It's just J.J. Abrams, the director. I love Star Trek, and my dad was a huge Star Trek fan, even more than I was, and I was really excited with him just to watch the new movies that were coming out, with the Chris Pine movies when they first started to come out. And we loved the first one, and it was great. It was everything my dad wanted, very similar to how The Force Awakens was. There was a lot of nostalgia in it, but it was still awesome. But when it got to the second movie of Star Trek, I want to say it was Star Trek Beyond or something like that, the second one with Chris Pine, and I asked my dad if he liked it, and he said no, he didn't. And I said, wait, I don't understand why. I thought it was a great film. He said he had seen it before, because that film was almost exactly like The Wrath of Khan was, the original one. And he said it wasn't nothing new and he didn't enjoy it. Now, to me, I had no idea what that meant, because I had never seen the original Star Trek movies. I was more of like a couple of the TV shows, that type of thing, and the new ones I was excited because my dad was. I didn't understand why he felt that way, because I wasn't as connected with the originals as much as he was. And now, as a Star Wars fan, looking back at Force Awakens and kind of seeing how people view this movie, Force Awakens, and I would say even to a sense Solo, with how much it relied on nostalgia or what it was going for, that people don't like what Disney's done with Star Wars because they think it's just too nostalgia based. And I kind of understand that now. And I bring this up because I personally love how Rogue One handled nostalgia. Now, from the moment I saw blue milk at Jyn Erso's child home and when they were farming, I knew that what type of nostalgia this was going to be, because blue milk is a very subtle Easter egg that only true Star Wars fans would understand. And I was relieved when I saw this. Now, it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what areas of nostalgia people don't like, but when I look at this movie as a whole, there's two main things I see when it comes to nostalgia that people don't like at all, and that has to do with CGI Tarkin and CGI Leia at the end of the movie. Now, I guess I probably should have said spoilers, but if you're watching this movie, obviously you've probably seen it and you're a Star Wars fan, so sorry about that, but it's pretty obvious at this point. But anyways, the whole Tarkin aspect of it. And first off, I want to say that, yes, the CGI looks amazing. And I'm not going to take away anything from the VFX artists who worked on creating Tarkin and Leia, because obviously I appreciate good CGI, and that was amazing CGI. It's still not perfect, and obviously it's not going to be perfect yet for a while, but it's as close as, honestly, I think to today's standards you can get to perfect. And for that, I respect it, and I really respect the CGI artists that created Tarkin and Leia, and it's really awesome to see what technology can do. So I don't want to rip on that, because I don't want to. But I feel like that type of nostalgia that people complain about, the main reason is that they think that those two being incorporated into the story was unnecessary. Now, when I look at why they say that, I agree and I don't agree, because I feel like their inclusions made it even a better movie for me. And people kind of go the same way with Vader, but not as many, because honestly Vader was pretty awesome in this movie, but I'm gonna digress from that. Now, where people get mad about this movie is they say that obviously Tarkin, they brought back a dead actor who'd been dead for a very long time, and all of this stuff like that. Now, this is a hot topic to begin with because of all the whole James Dean controversy. If you're not already aware, there's plans to be being in place to make a new movie, a new role, that's something that James Dean never had to work with, and James Dean died 65 years ago. So you can see why people would be upset about that. But in this situation with Rogue One, how they handled bringing a dead actor back to life works perfectly. It makes complete sense why, if you're trying to connect this movie to A New Hope, why Tarkin would be there. The man destroyed Alderaan in front of Princess Leia. Like, obviously he was a huge part of what the Death Star was in that first movie, and it's important to have him there to tie it all together. I think it worked perfectly. Yes, there were points where I felt like the uncanny valley came up into effect, and I knew it wasn't real, because also as a Star Wars fan, I know that actor had passed away. I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name, but I don't mean to disrespect him, obviously, because I know he did a lot of good things and a lot of good work in his life, but I'm more talking about not disrespecting someone's, like, by creating a new thing that they had nothing to do with. This is something he did, and this is something that people knew him for. Why not pay respects to the actor, pay respects to the role in the original by putting a character in that was crucial to what the first movie was, and making it a complete story and tying it in perfectly? People complain that Leia was there at the end. Now, unfortunately, they didn't get to really de-age Carrie Fisher or anything like that, because unfortunately at this point Carrie had passed away. And it's tragic, because people wouldn't be caring so much if that Princess Leia at the end was de-aged. If that was de-aged Carrie Fisher, no one would care. I love The Irishman, and everyone else seems to love The Irishman because those actors are alive. They were just de-aged. But in this, it was CGI, recreated, all this garbage like that. So people thought that this movie was just based on Disney saying, wow, you guys like nostalgia and member berries? Well, here, we'll bring people back from the dead. That's not what they were trying to do. They were trying to connect the overall story with what you already know and love. And what's so bad about that? There's nothing bad about that. There's nothing bad about wanting to connect a separate film, to what a normal, like what we're used to, what we've already seen. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't understand why people get so upset about this, because it's just, technology has come so far, and I think that it's important that we recognize actors that contributed to major film roles and a certain role that they already loved, that they were part of, and they were proud of. We're not doing something like with this whole James Dean controversy in this film, where it's like, oh wow, we're bringing someone back from the dead who had nothing to do with this project originally, never read a script or nothing, never been briefed on it, and it's just a cash grab. This wasn't a cash grab by Disney. This was trying to show the fans that they respect the original trilogy, and they're trying to tie it in as best they can with original characters being in places that make obvious sense. I don't understand it, and I don't want to get any more into it, because it's at this point I'm probably just rambling about it. But these type of things make me so upset, because I love this movie. I think it's a great movie, as I'm trying to explain and give you guys my opinion on the movie, and I hope that other people feel the same way as me, because I'm tired of hearing this movie get shit on because of stuff like CGI Tarkin and Leia. It contributes to the story. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's a great dose of nostalgia for a Star Wars film, and this is the way nostalgia should be handled in a Star Wars film in today's day and age. I stand by that this film has some of the best Star Wars battle scenes ever. Like, it's incredible, because I feel like this type of technology, if it was available in the 70s, this is what Star Wars would have looked like from the start. From Jedha to Scarif, every set piece and action scene is amazing. Like, this film has some of my favorite scenes ever in a Star Wars film. Not to mention, of course, the Darth Vader hallway scene at the end of the film. Like, how can you top that? Like, that's the perfect way to climax your action movie, is with a Darth Vader like slaughter, basically. And it was amazing to watch, because we've never seen Darth Vader at power like that, and it was insane to watch. I remember being in the theater and I could not stop smiling, and it was one of my favorite moments of the year that year for me, going to theaters and watching movies. I love that scene so much. That scene made the movie for me and made it 10 times even better than it already was. I loved it, and I still love love it, and I stand by it being probably the best Darth Vader fight scene, next to when he fights Luke in Empire. Of course, that's just a classic scene, and it's one of the best moments in cinema. But this honestly almost gets to that point, that little second, like that 15 seconds of him using the Force, and just when he lifts the guy up to the ceiling and cuts him in half. Like, I know they didn't show it, but like, can you imagine just how awesome it would have been to watch the guy split in two? Like, Disney doesn't have the balls to do that, but it would have been pretty cool to watch that. I think that's something like George Lucas would have done if he still had control, but that's not the point of the topic. And I want to talk about how I love the battles in this, because I feel like if there is one topic to end off about talking about Rogue One, it should be its most awesome feature, and that is how amazing the special effects are. It was nominated for an Oscar, like most Star Wars films are, but I feel like this time it was really different, because it was this film that, like, it just looked like something I'd never seen before, because we'd never seen, like, an original Star Wars, like an original trilogy film made today, set when the original trilogy was set, with all the technology and everything that we know and love from then, done now to like perfection. Like, this movie did everything to a T. It using old footage of the old X-Wing elite flyers and the old Y-Wing bombers, and just using people that we've seen, that we're familiar with, putting them in a battle that makes complete sense why they would be there. It's another example of, you know, how they did with Tarkin and everything like that with nostalgia. It's a great example of nostalgia, and it works its way into the battles when I'm not even talking about nostalgia, because that's how well this movie works and flows together. Picking little details like that to tie into the original trilogies and into A New Hope, it's genius. And it just makes me frustrated that they can't realize this, because they've already, like, people, I am one to heavily criticize The Last Jedi and how its action scenes, to me, were completely boring and the worst we've ever seen in a Star Wars film. But I don't understand how they could go from this to that. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I don't know why they changed their minds so fast. I don't get how they could change their minds, and why they would think that what they went with in The Last Jedi was better than what they had previously done in a way superior film, and they rolled with it. And that was the biggest kind of loss, was that they fucked up in that sense of it. They shouldn't have done what they did with the action scenes, and I feel like that mostly had to do with they gave way too much control to Rian Johnson. I feel like this is what Star Wars should be at all times. You should have this type of CGI, these type of battles, and it should feel like Star Wars. And every battle here does. The sound design, it's superb. Sound editing and mixing in this movie is so good. Like, I can't give enough credit to the sound mixers and the sound team on this film. Excellent job they did. And it's kind of where this movie really is at the VFX, the set design, the costume designers. This movie had so many amazing aspects to it that it would take me forever to thank everybody, because they literally did what Disney has failed to do, and they made a good movie. I don't know how how they can go from this to what they already have now, and what they've established in the sequel trilogy, from that to Last Jedi, to Solo, to the garbage disaster that Rise of Skywalker is most likely going to be. And it's really sad to see it, because Star Wars had so much potential when it came back with The Force Awakens. And then they released Rogue One, and it's amazing. And now Rogue One unfortunately has fallen victim, kind of like how the third prequel fell victim to the other two movies. And it's very sad to see. And I'm kind of going to end this video on that tone. It's sad that this movie has gotten forgotten, because I feel like it's one of those movies where if I had went back to maybe even a year after this came out, the hate wasn't there for this movie. This movie didn't get hate as much as it does now, and it was talked about more. Maybe because it was new or whatever it might have been. That who knows what the case was. But I feel like unfortunately Disney fucking The Last Jedi, screwing Solo, and making the abomination that is going to be Rise of Skywalker has unfortunately driven a nail through the only two good movies they had, which was Force Awakens and Rogue One. No one talks about them anymore. And it's time to give both those movies credit, and especially Rogue One. Rogue One was an original story, crafted from nothing but a few words in the title scroll of the original New Hope. And they made it into a solid film with great action, great story, good characters, and a plot that was interesting and sold me from the first trailer and even before the first trailer. If you tell me you're going to make a movie about rebels going on a suicide mission to steal the Death Star plans, to set in motion the original trilogy that I hold so dear and close to my heart, you better best bet that I will be opening my wallet and heavily paying to see this movie, because it's what Star Wars should be. And I hope that after this after the Rise of Skywalker, that comes out, that Disney will have learned its lesson. They will have realized the great reception they are getting from The Mandalorian, and they will realize they made a mistake, and they will put Star Wars back on the right track. The sequel trilogy can be bad, and Star Wars can still succeed in the future. They just need to take the right steps to correct their mistakes and give us good content that the fans that can be proud to call Star Wars. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are looking into the channel, you'll notice that this is my first video that I've ever posted. This is something new for me. I've never kind of ventured into this, talking about films in this type of depth way, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment and give me any feedback on the video and any thoughts on anything. I would love to hear it. Also, make sure to subscribe if you are just coming across this video, and leave a like. That really means a lot to me to see this type of support. I love Star Wars just as much as the next fan, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Star Wars, and hopefully we can grow this channel with Star Wars in taking the right steps to correct what has already happened. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe like I've already said, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.